when it still burns. Shoot to kill.
Welcome back, everybody. It is GSL Code S. We only got 2 groups left here in the round of 32. And, of course, the 2 most exciting groups, the ones with the foreigners. Scarlet already putting up a great fight against Stats, losing 1-2. But now we have the winner match. It's going to be Stats versus Classic.
Yeah, it's going to be a PvP. Can be a pretty wacky matchup when it comes down to it. And especially excited to see how Stats plays this, given that he's played a little bit more of a defensive style here tonight. Classic, I think, a little bit of an uphill battle coming into the GSL champion. And Stats really didn't show too many signs of weakness aside from that game number 2 that Scarlet was able to take very convincingly. So different matchup. I think Classic also looked a little bit indecisive in his series versus Keen.
Yeah, I could agree with you on that. He did look at times to be a bit indecisive and maybe made some of those games closer than they needed to be. Especially that game 1. It felt like he was almost rusty during that game or something. I don't know, not warmed up or something. But PvP, definitely you have to be decisive in this one. Right. You cannot be screwing around, especially when you're having 2 of the best Protoss in the world going at it.
Yeah, no way that you can complain about balance here. They both get the same units, so you do have to be very decisive with them. So if you haven't gotten your votes in yet for which player you want to see, get out there, tell your friends, GSL's on. It's time for the winner's match between Stats and Classic.
Okay, should be a good one, no doubt about it. Winner, of course, going on to be the 3rd Protoss in the round of 16. Very important moment here for the Codex.
All right, our blue Protoss player, he is
Splice Stats.
Should be a fun one, this map.
Indeed it is. His opponent, another name for the older version,
Classic.
Here he is. Yeah, so this will be a little bit interesting. I'm always kind of confused when I see a Protoss player just like sit back and not do anything innovative. I mean, I guess you can play a straight up game, but I feel like a lot of the strength, specifically with Protoss, lies in a lot of surprise that they can do. So we saw the probe handshake, both players out there across the map scouting at relatively similar timing.
Yeah, but both sides should have everything walled completely so you can't scout. And then there's the attack the pylon meta, which is always fun. But Proxima gives us some very different PvPs than other maps because it is so prime to go Phoenix here. Just because you get the free expansion, you basically can't be broken. And so if both guys go Phoenixes, then it just becomes a crazy Phoenix war a lot of the time. Of course, there is some counterplay to this. Like, for instance, if you rush a DT drop, that'll just straight kill a Phoenix opener. You could do something like just blind counter, go into blink really quick, something like that. But yeah, it definitely we see very different PvPs popping up on Proxima.
Yeah, so it's going to be an earlier Nexus here for Stats, and it doesn't look like Classic is really even kind of leaning that direction yet.
Yeah, Classic might be going for a quicker Stargate or maybe a more defensive opener here by getting the Mothership Core and Stalker right away. Looks like he does want to eventually take his Nexus. It's a little bit later, but he's going to, I guess, feel safer. It counts for a little tiny bit.
Well,
not
what is that
much.
Stalker going to do?
Nothing.
Okay.
Nothing.
Like, why do you really just need that Stalker? It's going to delay your Expo.
I know, right? Well, the thing is, if your opponent does get aggressive, the thing is you can do things like, there are crazy, cheesy builds for this map. Of course, if a Mothership Core comes, you can chase it away, but like sometimes you send out 2 probes and then like proxy stuff and attack really quick, and then if you have no units, you can be in trouble. But the Stalkers can push back Mothership Cores. It makes you feel a little bit safe, and it looks like Stats is going to just kind of blindly play against the supposed incoming Phoenixes by going right into a Twilight.
All right, so it does look like at least we'll see a few Phoenix. Nice to see, not exactly mirrored builds. I mean, it's cool to see who has the better micro and control when it does come down to just that. And here's that Mothership Core scouting that the Stalker will actually be able to help push away. Just going to get a little bit of scouting information.
This is really good intel to see that already, and now he's going to be able to chase away this Mothership Core.
One
and
kill
I believe
there,
he
though,
should
on
have
that
seen
Mothership Core, so value added.
Okay, so here we are. He gets to go Oracle because he scouted that there's a Twilight, and then, of course, Blink's on the way. So this is very standard, very normal. They both go into Robo, and no one really has a sizable advantage. Like, I personally think that Classic might have a little tiny one because Oracles are good, but getting quick Blink is never a bad thing.
Yeah, I mean, especially with those Stalkers out there. Now, it's going to be interesting to me to see this Void Ray out. I remember when Void Rays were just not a unit that we saw ever, and then they got a little bit of a buff, and people started incorporating maybe one. And then, of course, in Sky Toss, they're always going to be a staple part. If we do see that, it go that way. But I'm just really interested in seeing how these differing techs work out, because, I mean, Void Rays, and especially Oracles, in the right spots can really get a lot done. Sniping probes, delaying expos, like expos, not expos.
Yeah, just tons of scouting. Even stasis wards can be useful in PvP. But the Void Ray is neat because, like, if you open up with Stargate and your opponent goes more the Twilight tech, they basically kind of have to get Blink, which means they have to make some Stalkers, which means if you just make Void Rays and Immortals, you have, like, an army-killing army. It's slower and stuff, but, like, oh my god, there's a flaming battlecruiser going by. Looks like Nathanius was on this map earlier. But yeah, like, just the Void Ray Immortal is so strong against Blink openers that sometimes, if your opponent gets greedy, you can just go kill him.
Well, Blake is about to finish Artosis, and so is that Void Ray. I'm really interested to see exactly what Stats wants to accomplish with all of this, or Classic, rather. It's always hard for me to... The players' names are not
they're not
lined up with everything.
Lined up. I think there is a way to line those up. I think, like, I saw Funko do that before.
Because the red production is on top, but...
you can switch. You can switch that if you're so inclined and you're on the right.
This is where our observer
version.
just tells us to get good.
Yeah, that's right. Shine does not care. Nor does he need to in the round of 8 of ASL.
Yeah, that's true. It's like he's too busy winning everything. It's like, I have no time for your piddling excuses.
It's like, what game is this even? But, okay, so and look at this. I love this. He's trying to hunt down that observer.
Looks
like he gets it. Yeah, nice.
All right. Good job. Good observer hunting.
He just killed his own Stalker to get a Prism out immediately, by the way. That was pretty cool.
Gonna take one for the team there.
Yeah. Now, this army that he's made, like, murders Stalkers so badly. What we'll have to see from Stats to hold on against it is just... Well, he's getting a Disruptor, so that's actually kind of a nice start, because you can deal a ton of damage to the Immortals and proc their shields with that shot.
Unfortunately, Disruptors do not hit air units.
No, they do not, and that's a very important thing to point out. So he's going to have to utilize Force Fields and Overcharges very well.
Yeah, and even with Overcharge, I mean, Void Rays just kill pylons so quickly. I think he has, what, 3-4 Void Rays by now?
Yeah.
That's a lot.
This is really on Stats right now. Like, it is much easier to kill somebody with this than to have them defend it perfectly.
Okay, I couldn't see those Immortals. They were underneath, but now working even just on that Assimilator, going to be up to these Disruptors, really push this army back. But, wow, Classic's just not overextending.
Yeah, I think he sees the Disruptors and he just says, a couple good Disruptor hits, and he loses his army, and there's no coming back from that because your opponent has a... Like, this is a super solid comp. Yeah, you've countered the Stalkers very well, but now that it's Blink Disruptor, if you ever lose your army, you're dead. Like, this is... It's kind of funny, because we see this sometimes, like we saw it in the Scarlet versus Stats game. There's different comps where, like, you can remake them very quickly. Like, Blink Disruptor, you remake super fast. This comp here, with Immortals and Void Rays, those increment out. That doesn't rebuild quickly at all. Like, once that's dead, it's gone. You better get some other units in there.
Yeah, you got to play old school Protoss, where you can't just warp everything in.
Yeah, that's right.
A little bit slower, but maybe higher quality, depending on the situation you engage in.
Look at this. He's going into some Colossus. This is super duper neat. Some Protosses are playing around with going Blink and Disruptor into Colossus play. You saw Hero do this recently on Velshire.
So why do you get the Colossus there?
Yeah, that's the good question, isn't it? Colossus, with their great range and damage, if you dance and zone perfectly, they're still really useful. And if you are like one of the best Protoss in the world, you know how far Disruptors hit at every moment, right? So like you can avoid it. It's hard to do, but yeah, I don't know. It's a cool thing that's just now popping up. I don't know if it's even something that's going to stay around, but I'm excited to see Stats do this.
So it will be scouted out there. Colossus revealed just having to clean up those depths. So both players really on top of what the other is doing. Blink just started here for Classic, though.
Yeah. I think it's smart for him to just get this upgrade, because, again, if everything goes to hell, you're going to need to make units that can do something, not just wait for units to increment out. But
Remax on Stalkers.
Yeah. Look at this. He's actually going to second Stargate after scouting those Colossus and making Void Rays still. So he's going to have... Basically, the Void Rays are going to try to kill everything, and the Disruptors are going to make sure that you can't blink under the Void Rays. That's kind of the strategy that I'm looking at here out of Classic.
Yeah, continuing to keep those Void Rays in production, and they all stay alive. He didn't lose any of them earlier on, so it's always kind of interesting to me, because a lot of people initially thought that the Oracle was just purely an early game unit, and then as players got better at controlling them, they stayed alive longer and became really integral in the late game, marking armies, getting those stasis wards out. And there's a lot you can do with early game units that survive the entire game, and now just look at how many Void Rays he's pooled up.
Jeez. That is a scary, scary army. Like, as long as he can protect the Void Rays from dying to, like, just Stalkers blinking under him, he's in good shape. Okay, Prism gets loaded up. What was it? Warded up or something? What was I saying?
So it's the battle of the balls. They're being thrown out. Lots of disruptors on both sides. I didn't actually count who had more. Sometimes that can matter if you just have that one extra charge.
Yeah. But, yeah, I'm not sure which side actually has more. It looks like, though, continued tech up here for Classic. A lot of times from Void Rays, you'll just go into Carriers. Carriers are the ultimate unit in this matchup. If you are maxed on Carriers, literally nothing beats that, no matter what your opponent does.
Yeah, it takes a lot of Void Rays to kill that many Interceptors.
Yeah. Oh, my, yeah. But,
still haven't really seen these Void Rays really accomplish a whole lot. I mean, the threat of them being there does play a big part, but still got to hit enemy units with them. We haven't exactly seen that yet.
This is a super funny game. Look at this. Like, the army that Classic has made here is so funny looking, and the fact that Stats now, he just kind of has to go up in a Fleet Beacon as well. I mean, if you can't kill each other in PvP, which can happen when you get a certain amount of Disruptors and people are not making sloppy moves, it goes to Carrier.
Okay, well, it looks like it is headed that way. Classic with a Mothership on the way, and 2 more Stargates, rather, coming online as well. If I can just take a moment to point out a big difference. A lot of people talk about the Protoss Death Ball. Coming from casting a whole bunch of Brood War, like, you just can't do that. You can't hotkey your entire army. And I think one of the reasons we haven't seen a whole lot of Void Rays being used is because they're just clumped up there with the main army. And I mean, you have to keep your main army like safe from those Disruptor shots, but you don't have to do that with the Void Rays. So I feel like if you control them separately, maybe there are more situations for you to get value out of them, but we're not seeing it because it's all just hotkeyed together.
Yeah, it's kind of funny like that, right? You see some big mistakes out of players at times where, like, for instance, they'll attack move their entire army to defend, like, against a Widow Mine. I saw that the other day in a pro game, and I was like, oh yeah, that was a terrible move. Okay, but it does happen occasionally, and something like these Void Rays, right? Like the ground army protects them to a certain degree from stalkers blinking under, but if he could break some off, do some harassment, and it can be a difficult thing though. If your opponent jumps on you, your Void Rays are out of position. It's
yeah. All right, so little bits of harassment here. Stats going into the main and also there into what is, I guess, the 1, 2, 3, 4th base. But mass expanding coming out here from Classic, going up to, I think, what is that, 6 bases?
Yeah, they're both just, well, you said it, mass expanding. Double core right now is going on for Stats, I believe, was it? I'm sorry to get confused which one. No, it's actually Classic, never mind. Classic is the one with the double core, so he's really upgrading these. They're both going mass carriers, so this is where you're going to see them start to bleed off extra units.
Yeah, they're both probably going to go in for a bigger engage just because you have to free up a massive amount of supply for just tons of carriers.
Yeah. And as you increment out and you keep on re-hitting your max, you got to be careful, because if he were to throw out his entire ground army, then the ground army plus the carriers of his opponent could win. So it can be a little bit complicated like that. The last thing we should see thrown away are probably the disruptors, because they will just counter any stalkers blinking under you.
Yeah. Sometimes you see things like High Templars, some form of ground-based splash damage. I think maybe Storm might be a little bit better because it does hit all the interceptors, all the...
If you have the extra gas, Storm actually can be useful. Disruptors counter them pretty hard, but other than that, they can be really good against Sky Toss, especially Void Rays.
Ooh, better disruptor control here by Stats. He's picked up, I think, 3 or 4 of Classics. And Continual Revelation. Look at this. It feels like the Oracles are kind of on patrol right now, just going in and out, keeping that Mothership core or Mothership neutralized.
Yeah, it's and just seeing where your opponent is moving as well is quite useful. So this is what this can look like in PvP. There are games like this for sure.
So now we get to sit back, meditate on the Yaki Way, and continue
What is the Yaki Way?
The Yaki Way is an anthropological work of pseudo-fiction in which the author surmises that there are animal-esque spirits hidden within the peyote cactus, which is also a hallucinogen.
Oh.
So, yeah, apparently you can learn how to fly and ascend to different forms of consciousness.
Yeah, I saw that episode of The Simpsons, I think, actually.
Well, it's an interesting concept, but it's what I'm thinking about right now. Because okay, finally here we go.
Oh my God!
All the carriers on top of everything. Mothership core or Mothership rather hanging back a little bit for Classic here. But who's got more Void Rays? That's Classic.
Yeah, he has those extra Void Rays and 1 more carrier, so he just cleans house right there. Classic going to be able to take this first game in a dominating fight.
All those interceptors out there look like mosquitoes in my apartment, Artosis.
Yeah.
Way more of them than at least Stats wants to see, and he just cannot remake a Sky Toss army fast enough.
Yeah, this was this was a well done game from Classic. You can't really complain, right? They had within 1 carrier number of each other, but he had the Void Rays, so he just clicked those on carriers, and there you have it. Carriers beat everything in PvP. Zergs think carriers are tough to kill. They literally have no idea. They complain Protoss is easy and carriers are hard to kill. Try playing Protoss against carriers. It's wild.
They're good units.
You saw it right there, man. Their damage output is madness.
It is. And so Classic takes game number 1 in this series, 1 game away from being the first player to advance out of this group of GSL Code S.
Yeah, and he used kind of the more standardish opener for the map going into Stargate. Hey, it pays off. It kind of shows you why. This is a map where you definitely can get air toss battles. And with that slight lead, the earlier Void Rays, he had the better army for that 1 gauge.
Yeah, also didn't throw them away, didn't lose them early on, just pooled them up, and you just saw how big a difference that made as the map continued, as the game continued. And that's going to take us to our final map of this, next to final map of the series. I thought they took the ball before. My eyes just don't work today, Artosis. Sorry. Let's game number 2. If Classic takes this, it would be a little bit of a surprise. I know Stats kind of the favorite of this group, defending GSL Code as champion, but Classic just looks great tonight, Artosis.
Yes, he certainly does. I guess that's what happens when you copy European Protosses.
And here we are on Newkirk Precinct. We have arrived.
Splice. Stats.
And so is that guy. Some cheers from the crowd, a lot of fans. Stats, a very popular player, but his opponent in the red.
Classic.
There we go, is Classic. And yeah, just pointing out that both of our players here are champions of their different respective eras. I remember back when Classic was on SK Telecom and was just one of the best Protoss players in the world at that time, and ace for his team in that respect. I mean, nobody would question whether or not he was just on his A game, but I mean, that seems to be a little bit of a long time ago.
Yeah, kind of. And, you know, Stats has so much hype around him right now. And, I mean, for a good reason, right? He had a great last year, getting very high in SSL multiple times. Then this year, or this season, you know, I am Gyeonggi. He hits second place. I am Katowice, second place, and then wins GSL. So, I mean, really great results. But truthfully, Classic has done more than him. He actually had, Classic is his SSL champion, a GSL champion, an IEM champion. I mean, he had a similar Brood War career. He was actually a first draft pick in Brood War as a rookie, so that's like a big statement right there. He was always seen as someone with a lot of promise. And yeah, I mean, these, even though Stats is like, you know, the hotter pro right now, Classic's right there, you know?
Well, I don't know, Classic's hairstyle looks pretty attractive, man. Does change it up quite a bit. Although sometimes when you come into GSL, you just sit down and they do your hair, and you're like, oh, well, this is how it turned out today.
Yes.
I kind of
That's generally it, yeah.
Got great hair. I have these comically large supervillain eyebrows, but the hair at least is on point, so...
Rapid rotten.
Get out of here. Where's Tasteless?
Well.
The answer is probably on the toilet somewhere,
Yeah,
but
possibly.
Definitely good wishes out to him.
Good old Tasselcraft. Feel better soon.
All right. So, another PvP, this time on Newkirk Precinct. Another map that we can see go into, you know, at least some early air, good avenues for Oracles to come across. What is the path for our players here? Earlier Nexus here, this time for Classic, but right on time Stats with the Expo.
Yeah, the only real difference here is that Classic went... yeah, it's starting to throw me off, too, the way the names are. I'm like, oh, my God. Classic went for the couple of Adepts, which give him the potential for damage, but Stats has played really safely. 4 Stalkers into Nexus is just the safest opening, and in fact, he even goes Robo right afterwards. So, like, just super, super safety play here, really out of both sides.
It's really throwing me off because the screen that I have is not showing what your screen is showing. I'm just stuck on a Nexus, but you get to actually see the units.
Sit on my lap and watch this with me. It's fine. It's no problem.
And here's what I want for Christmas, Santa Tasteless.
Yeah. Well, I'm not tasteless. So.
Artosis.
Wow. Wow. Now I see what you really think of me.
That's true. You're basically the same person.
Yeah. So, yeah. But, you know, that last game, cool play out of Classic. That is definitely got to give props where they're due. The Europeans were using that style before the Koreans, for sure. I mean, like, Immortal Void Ray is not like a super new thing. This is something that, you know, I think probably everyone's been doing for a while. But to go into Disruptors and then use that to get into carriers with a lot of speed like he was trying to do there is definitely a very European style.
I really kind of wonder at which point both of these players just realize, hey, whoever gets up to that Skytoss army faster just has more and wins, and then they don't go for any of these mid-game armies and just tech up as fast as possible.
That's where you can sometimes just straight up die to something too, right? Like if you go into... Like there's a lot of different unit comps that actually work well in PvP. The end game can just be carriers.
Ooh, careful. Good control there. Does save everything and keep that War Prism alive.
But yeah, like, so look at Stats, right? He's going into Blink. We'll probably see this out of Classic as well. And yeah, so they're both going Blink, and then it's like you'll have Blink and then some amount of Immortals, and then you'll go into Disruptors. And if your opponent doesn't do that or something that counters that, pretty quickly, they can just die. To go straight into Sky Toss, especially on this map, is really actually quite tough. If you open with Stargate and your opponent goes Blink, then you can do it like Classic does it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, what we'll see is some posturing in the middle with Blink, Immortal, Sentry, Disruptor, and then eventually Carriers get added on into that composition.
2 Adepts get dropped off, kill 1 probe, and get lifted back out. That's your harass. Okay, what a good player.
Pretty sick. Good thing you bought that Prism.
All those resources.
Oh, man.
All right, well, congratulations. You're now 1 or 2 probes ahead of your opponent.
That's stats, man. Literal god Protoss.
Expending all that micro just to be able to get the 2 Adepts on in. Well, thankfully, he's also good at the defense, and we'll be using these Stalkers to push Classics or Prism back.
This is just completely mirrored. You see, like, just barely slightly different timings on some of the buildings and units, but they're making exactly the same set of units, and we're going to see a dance coming up. And I guess the interesting thing is where and when they want to take their thirds. Looks like pocket expansion to stats. Classic might take the same.
4 versus 2 gateways on the way. More for stats here. So maybe looking at a stronger mid game here, whereas of course Classic is going to have, I guess, more minerals to do something else with. Might be thinking about, and yeah, there he is. Stats getting that expo. What do you think about taking that expansion as opposed to the ones farther away in PvP?
Well, if you are confident in your... Like, they both are scouting each other a lot, right? So they see what unit sets each other are going for. If you're confident in your control and, like, it's almost when you see Blink, Immortal, Sentry, Disruptor versus each other, it's like playing footsies in a fighting game where you're just kind of poking back and up, moving back and forth, and waiting for your opponent to screw up. So if you feel good about that, this is a good expansion to take. If you feel like you might get outplayed and you got to be a little bit more sneaky and tricky, maybe you want to take the further one. But, I mean, both these guys are of such a level that this seems to me to be a good play. Now, Classic, I feel like is, as far as tech goes, making, in one way, a better choice, getting the Stargate.
Yeah.
Because Oracle's tagging this is really awesome.
Yeah, it's going to tell you exactly where your opponent's army is, and it's also going to set you up better for that Sky Toss transition. Both players doing a nice job posturing in the middle, exactly like you said, Artosis. But it doesn't look like either one's really going to commit that much to dealing a ton of damage. Stats just being a little bit more aggressive.
Oh, yeah. He pushes down one of those pounds, so that's pretty neat. Blink forward right there. And, like, this is kind of what it looks like. Now, if someone messes up and gets hit really badly, ooh, it might actually be Classic messing up. Nope, doesn't look like it. But if someone loses a whole bunch, then the other player might be able to parlay that into a victory. But if not, we'll eventually see a little bit of a disengagement after trading a couple units, and then we could see someone try to tech up into Carriers.
Stats being very active with those Blink Stalkers. This is one of the big hallmarks of pro play, where you see players not just sit back and macro up, but look for every little opportunity to eke out an advantage. Oh, big
there you
hit
go. That's
there.
a nice
First
one.
hit by Classic's Disruptor. Blink Charge is going to be very effective, but these Sentries are going to run out of energy pretty soon.
Yeah, they'll be out of energy here very, very soon, as you say. And the second Robo was up by Classic a lot faster, so he's going to have more Disruptors, which obviously gives him quicker cooldowns on these shots, so he might be able to start pushing stats back.
Beautiful control there by Stats. Nice Blink there by Classic as well. Neither player able to get a sizable advantage, and it looks like we're backing off and most likely heading up to Sky Toss.
Yeah, it's pretty likely at this point. Now, Classic had made a Stargate before. I think he might have canceled it and now is remaking. We'll see Oracles first, but then maybe Carriers afterwards, because the Disruptor war shouldn't really be 100% done yet. If you can outspot your opponent, we'll see people start moving Disruptors around a little bit more, trying to get like little flanks off. Like, if you lose one Disruptor, it doesn't really matter. So it's worth like risking it by making it walk somewhere funny, like into a bush or behind some minerals, to try to trick your opponent into, losing a bunch of units to it.
Can you imagine if we had like Dota-style trees all around the map? You can hide Disruptors in like any tiny little nook or crevice.
Sounds like a recipe for a terrible game.
Well, it would be terrible, at least for the person who's at the receiving end of those disruptors.
Which would be me most of the time, which is why I feel that way.
All right, well, there's a big blink forward there. Classic's trying to clean up these Adepts coming in to deal damage. It looks like they will finally get a couple of probe kills. Oh, actually racking up a few. Worker count still identically even after that, so I guess that doesn't really matter.
No, I mean, these guys are like testing each other in a certain way. Like you send in the Adepts, oh, it didn't work. Okay, well, I didn't really think it would work, but these Adepts don't do anything, so there you go.
So it looks like they're not doing anything here, but like you said, just testing your opponent. And I think this is where you can really tell the difference between the tip-top of pro players and people who are just, top 50 GM, because you just get tested in every single one. You answer one question wrong, you lose 5 probes. 2 questions wrong, you lose a Nexus, like something like that.
Yeah, this group overall so far has everyone's shown a lot of respect for each other in the way that they're playing through these pokes, because sometimes you'll just see, like, you watch these guys play this on ladder and they might just go try to kill the guy they're against, right? But like Stats versus Classic, they both know that they can kill each other so well that...
Now this is really interesting. Classic's actually getting Zealot legs here.
Yeah, in fact, both sides getting Zealot legs. Like, Zealots are going to be able to take down expansions easily. It's hard to use disruptors against them correctly, and like if you get enough of them, they start killing off stalkers even. So, anyways, this is a really good move out of Classic.
Yeah, Stats just out of position there, and a big blink forward, catching that Oracle.
Oh, he almost got both.
Yikes. Okay, saving the Nexus though. Stats keeps that alive. Did lose a sizable amount of probes, and now, dude, that's better blink control.
Yeah. Going to blink out of there and get away. The Zealots are being added in now, and Classic is the first one that's going to be going into carrier tech. So, I mean, if he starts getting carriers out, that's fantastic. Of course, there's going to be a slight army advantage for a little bit to Stats because he is slower on that. Warping in a lot of Zealots right now. And don't forget, you spread those Zealots out, they can either harass very well or... if they're not too clumped, disruptors don't really deal with them super duper well.
All right, well, there go. Whoa!
There those runners are again.
Yeah, I forgot the name. Tarahumara, yeah. Zealots, Marines. Oh my god, big disruptor hit.
Ooh.
Nice splitting, but still lots of value there from Stats Army.
Yeah, again, a couple of really good ones on right there. So well done, but another blink forward. So he actually ends up losing both. It's not as big of a deal. And Stats is actually still making disruptors. Looks like he wants a few Archons and more Zealots in here as well, but carriers are starting to pop. So as long as Classic sits back defensively and just continually is shooting out one disruptor shot at a time as Stats tries to attack, Classic will be ahead on carriers.
Now, Stats is building a Dark Shrine right now, so even if your carriers and your motherships get this big death ball going, I mean, DTs in the main still kill things. So something to keep an eye on here. And as Classic does need to free up more supply, it's going to be a little bit more aggressive. Keep pushing forward. He maxes out on those carriers behind it.
Yeah, he's just trying to poke in here as best he can. If he keeps Stats busy, he gains more and more of an edge as he gets more and more carriers. 3 on the way right now, it looks like. I think he already has 2 out as well. And the Fleet Beacon is just going to be finishing for Stats, so he's going to be behind in this way.
Yeah, I mean, it might set up a recipe for a repeat of our last game, Artosis, where Classic just has that one more carrier from getting the tech a little earlier.
This game, it's going to be like 3 to 5 more carriers, I believe, right? Yeah, I think he already has 2 out and 3 to pop. So if he has 5 more carriers, that's just... I mean, even with like 1 more, you have an advantage.
Yeah, no signs of even like the Graviton Catapult for Stats either. So this air tech is going to be coming out a little bit forward. Big disruptor hits, and it's way better there for Classic.
Ooh, yeah, Classic is really destroying him right now. But this counterattack by Stats is nice. Trying to take down the 4th base. Looks like enough units are coming out that might not end up working out for him.
Bad disruptor control there by Classic, and he'll wind up, or by Stats, and he'll wind up losing those and not being able to take down the Nexus.
Okay, the rest of the army coming up here, trying to do something against this other base, but right now, Classic really has gotten himself into a pretty decent spot. Okay, yeah, he has 5 carriers out against 0 at the moment.
Oh, wow, actually going to get 1 or 2 sniped off here. This is a big move by Stats, trying to limit that disadvantage. Oh, just barely not able to pick off the second.
Yeah, but still, Classic has a bigger better army overall.
Oh, he warped in Zealots. Whoops.
Ooh, a DT's mixed in there too.
That is very true, and it's going to run by.
There's only 2 observers out right now.
Yeah, what does Classic have for detection back here? Okay, he's got cannons. Yep. Never mind.
Everything he needs.
I didn't expect there to be cannons in the base. Why would those be there? Wonder why. Oh, he also has oracles out as well. Gonna get a big mark. Okay, a small mark there on the army with that revelation. And yeah, I mean, it just seems like Classic's on the road to success.
Yeah, he certainly is so far. There are some things that can still happen, though. Like, for instance, even though carriers are really strong, like I've been talking about, at lower numbers, you can still kill them with gateway units, like Stalkers at +3. Oh, no problem. You can kill off some carriers. Like we just saw one die, another one almost did to a pretty small number.
Nice blink away there.
So yeah, like there's still some crazy stuff that can occur, but look at that. He's got a lot of disruptors under there. You cannot be blinking under that.
No, you certainly cannot. And there's no way you're going to be able to kill off all of those disruptors at once. So, I mean, it certainly looks like Classic wins the ground battle with 1 billion disruptors. He's got more carriers in the areas, and I'm just not sure what Stats is going to be able to do us beside hide behind
Stasis
wards. There we go.
No
it's like those things, those names I've said 10 times this cast, but now I can't remember.
Well, stasis wards against carriers, not as useful, but...
Turns out interceptors don't quite get dealt with that easily by them.
I guess a cool thing is Archons are here, right? So maybe the splash damage and the good attack upgrades can help him out on killing off interceptors, right? Your opponent's carriers have less interceptors, you can get something done.
Great defensive disruptor there from Stats, but just so much more on the ground here by Classic. I mean, it might not even come down to the carriers, although now they have, in fact, arrived, and there's just nothing there from Stats.
They have, in fact, arrived.
That's what carriers do, man. They arrive.
I've heard that once or twice.
A few times, yeah.
Okay, so Classic pushing across the map right now has this very scary carrier fleet.
Look how many carriers he has. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 carriers. Oh my god. He doesn't have a mothership, though, does he? I don't think I saw that in there, at least with his initial carrier
Actually,
army.
I think you might be right. Oh, they just had the unit tab up. I didn't look. Well, who knows? I think you're right, though. I haven't seen mothership.
Extra shield upgrade for Stats. It's kind of interesting to see him weave that in there. Sometimes you don't
Works for the carries and interceptors, so definitely a good one. Double core for Classic, who, by the way, is really going carries now. Look at this. He's got Stargates everywhere.
Oh, my God. He's producing, what, 4 carriers at a time?
Yeah. He's getting up to the level where he's going to want to lose basically everything.
That's 5 carriers at a time. Yeah. Wow. And, yeah, I mean, DT and Zealot Harass is cool. He's actually going to have to replace these cannons to reveal the DTs now that they've been taken out. So, got to cross all of your I's and dot all of your T's, or the other way around. Also, J's.
Lowercase ones, at least.
Yeah, oftentimes unrepresented in that colloquialism, but just got to throw that out there.
Kind of unfair, truthfully. So, the carrier count, 10 against 6. The advantage goes to
11,
10.
12. Oh, my God.
Yeah. Well, he's truly committed to the carriers, and he's gone into them quicker this game. He's got the double
95
core.
interceptors.
It's a lot of interceptors.
If this were Brood War, half of those things wouldn't even shoot.
Well, Stats, this is a tall order for you, buddy.
Indeed it is. So I guess also positioning important.
Yeah.
If you get caught out of positioning, then you kind of lose everything. I mean, Archons are great if they get in there and underneath everything, but that is another tall order.
Like, even if your opponent has a mothership over the carriers, like you can, if you have way more carriers, you just click on the mothership and then click on carriers. All you do is like shift click them, and it's yeah, like.
This is not an APM intensive army, guys.
No, it truly is not. It's just about positioning and knowing that you have more in PvP. I mean, because again, like as you hit max, you might want like a mothership's okay. Having an oracle or 2 is okay, but basically you just want as many carriers as you can possibly have. And Classic is doing a better job of doing that.
I mean, if you wait forever, eventually the counts will even up.
That's true. Eventually that will happen.
Stats actually does have better upgrades. He's on +2 shields, I think. So
that's nice, yeah.
Yeah. Going to be about oracles tagging everything.
But he's trying to get value out of these ground units still. Like, look at these disruptors. I guess, well, you know what? If he uses the Disruptors to clear all the ground of his opponent, then the Archons can come into play and maybe get something done.
Gotta watch out.
Ooh.
Oh, nice hit there from Stats, and it's going to be about better connects on these carriers. Lots of interceptors out there. Classic with more carriers in the air. Who has the better army? And it looks like Classic's going to crush it again.
Yeah, it certainly looks that way. Every single carrier going down. The Mothership going to be falling quickly as well. The Archon's trying to get under everything. Okay, so he's warping in some Stalkers, I believe, to try to blink under here, as a lot of the Interceptors were taken down. I feel like all Classic would need to do in the whole world here is retreat and then come back. This was a very greedy play by Classic to stay there, because he's like, okay, I won because I killed the carriers, which is technically true, but these are these weird situations. You run out of all your interceptors because these Archons, you gotta retreat. If he had killed all the carriers, instantly retreated, Stats would have left the game. But instead, he lost a lot of extra carriers there. So that was really, really sloppy by Classic.
Yeah, and these Archons are going to regenerate their shields and come back good as new. Ground army does quite matter. Oftentimes it's a little bit easy, just tunnel vision on, oh, carriers, they're big and scarier, but it's not always the entire story.
No, it's not, because like, Stats did this right. He knew he was behind. He sat the Archons. He didn't like right-click on carriers. He sat them under his carriers so that they killed interceptors, and there was no interceptors. Gets some extra Stalkers, uses his huge attack upgrades and just good overall ground upgrades to reduce that carrier count. And now Classic doesn't have the massive lead that he had before, and this is, like, I totally understand. I think every Protoss player has had this happen where you have so many more carries that you're just like, oh, yawn, I win. And then, you know.
Not so.
It's not so. It's not so.
All right. Well, both players keeping an eye out there. Oh, nice pick off these Disruption Blasts from Stats. Have actually been really good, but poking out there with the Interceptors. This is so close, Artosis.
Oh, just barely missing that Disruptor hit.
Oh, good ones underneath that Mothership. So the Classics starting to deal with this ground army that was such a big force for Stats. Way more carriers in the air, and it looks like Classic might just have enough.
This time he definitely does. There was no ultimate battle where he had to kill a bunch of carriers where all the interceptors die, and so Classic, by way of having a lot of Stargates and remaking all the carriers he lost, will be able to take this one down.
Yeah, it certainly looks like that. About 10-3 on the carrier count. Some High Templars starting to be warped in for more and more Archons, which were really kind of the MVP for Stats in that last fight. But I mean, I just think the lack of carrier numbers means that now those Archons get targeted instead. And there's now, what are we up to? 79 interceptors here for Classic.
Yeah, that's pretty scary stuff right there. Just starting to pick off everything. I'm surprised he's even just like sitting right there. Like, I mean, the thing is, Classic, he's basically figured out that he's won a few times in this game, and he's playing like kind of a little bit sloppy due to that, I think, which you'd never really want to see, but I guess here he goes. He's going to try to finish off, but like, he could just do things like fly to the main base, and then if he gets attacked, recall, you know?
Yeah, and I think he might even recall here. Those Archons are actually getting all the way underneath his army. He won't be able to recall now, but he does have a little bit of a structure in the middle of the map to micro around. Still plenty of interceptors here, but all the carriers getting cleaned up for Stats.
Yeah, it's like Classic is doing as sloppy these guys are two of the greatest Protoss, and I have nothing but respect and love for them. I watch every one of their games, but like, this is truly sloppy play from Classic trying to finish this one out.
Yeah, and now going into Void Rays, and I think this makes a lot more sense there. Void Rays being mixed in, they're going to be able to just target down big things on the ground, whether it's the Disruptors or Archons, and might be the recipe for success here.
They'll melt everything. You just build them quick and keep going. Like, Stats can never catch up on the carriers. He'd have to mine out like the remaining bases on his side of the map to make that many carriers, and that's not going to happen. It's for a long time, Classic has had this game like almost finished, and then loses some extra stuff. But
how many times are we going to see Classic go forward, get an advantage, but not win, and then pull back, and then just lather, rinse, repeat? I mean,
the thing is, like, he has the right and ability to do this. Like, at this point, he can kind of just sit around a little bit. But Stats is not giving up. He doesn't want to have to fight someone like Keener Scarlet, you know?
That is very true.
He wants Classic to keep on messing things up so that he has a chance, but Classic's army is pretty good.
Excellent analysis, Artosis.
Yeah, no, I know.
I too believe his army is pretty good as well.
I don't know what else to say about this. I think I made my point.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen this 2 or 3 times. This is, the third movie in the series. We've kind of got the way things go by now. Classic kind of cruising down the street in his 6'4", all the way into what is a new base for Stats. Won't be new very long.
All right, Classic going in for the kill for the 3rd time. See if he can get it this time. I don't know how Stats could possibly kill his army here.
It's going to be Zealots versus DTs. I think those DTs will do pretty well. I don't know.
Zealots just run away, no problem.
Classic's decided, you know what I need this time around? Lots of Zealots and Void Rays. All right, we'll see if it works. Big ground army in the form of those Zealots, but Stats just not on top of it. I mean, let's just look at the supply. 200 versus 130.
Yeah. Classic, Stats is still in this game. Not in it, with a possibility to win, but still remains without GGing.
Yeah, I never understood that saying. He's in it to win it. I'm like, well, yes. Yes, all the players are all in it to win it. Yes, thank you. But I think this might be an example of when he is in the game, but possibly not to win it. I mean, ideally, yes, that would be great, but especially with this Observer coming up, allowing those DTs to get cleared up, the Zealots doing a decent job at harassment. Yeah, here comes Classic, looking to swing the hammer, at least cancel that base.
He's warped up there, going to lose this one once again. Classic just taking more bases of his own. His army very tagged right now, extremely tagged. Would be hard to be more tagged. Even another tag on top of it would not make it more tagged. I believe everything is tagged.
No, he's got to learn how to pop some tags. That's how I hear you achieve success.
What is popping a tag?
I believe it's when you go into the thrift shop and you take the tags off the things. I don't know, man. I just listen to the song.
You switch tags so that you get stuff more cheaply or something?
It just makes sense in a song, Artosis. I don't pay attention. I just listen to the beat. What do you think? I pay attention to the lyrics? What am I, a basically intelligent human being?
No, certainly no one would ever accuse you of that.
Wow, I'm glad we got that out of the way.
So Rapid, how are you doing, man? It's good.
I was doing pretty well.
It's good to see you
At this point in the game, I'm a husk of my former self, Artosis.
I know.
What are we at right now? The 28-minute mark. This is what I do with my life, Artosis. Watch Classic throw away 2 carrier armies and sit in the middle of the map.
Well, it's really on Stats to figure out how to do anything here, which is a very tall order.
Cool. All right. Whoa. Lots of interceptors out there for Classic.
Okay,
He'll pick up a couple of carriers, and yeah, I think that might just be what he needs. I guess now he's finally learned not to overcommit into those Archons. He does have to make sure not everything dies to these Zealots that Stats is trying to do that cute harassment with. He's going to clean up the Warp Prism, and yeah, okay, there we go.
I feel like right now Stats is... Okay, so here's my thing. It's like watching a guy who believes he has magic take on the U.S. military.
Do you believe in magic?
It's not working out here.
In a young Protoss heart. Well, maybe they don't have those either. GG, finally Classic, able to take it out and advance in first place out of this GSL Code S group.
Yeah, really well done. Only dropping a single game tonight to Keen in that very first map of the night. But you know what? His PvP, it feels like he has a very good idea of how to play it. His timings going into carriers, both games were superior stats. Game 1, he set himself up for that. Game 2, he just had a better sense of when to go. He had the quicker double robo to just keep the zoning occurring with the mass disruptors. And then he realized, okay, I can just go into carries here because I cannot be killed as long as I do not screw up massively. And that was a very good call from him because it was true.
Yeah, Slow and Steady won the race there, and that is going to do it for our first series. In no regret walk-off stage there.
He's just like, hey, I'm no regret. I'm just standing in the camera shot.
Definitely living up to his name there.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to be going into an interview with our Protoss player Classic.
대결에서 승리했습니다. 이야기 나눠보겠습니다. 축하드립니다.
네, 감사합니다.
So we had a winners map with two GSL champions, and Classic winds up coming out on top. How do you
쉽지
feel?
않은 조여가지고 되게 걱정을 많이 하고 왔는데 이렇게 조 1위로
So yeah, I think my group was actually really strong. So I even think my next group is going to be very tough. But I'm just very happy to advance from this group.
사실 대여비보다 대여비할 때 저도 이제
So do you have a lot of
나머지 둘을
pressure in that champion versus champion match?
며칠 전까지는.
네.
근데 최근에 대여비랑 레더하면서
네.
좀
Saying
할만하길래
before I had a match
신자전
today,
대여비랑 할 때 집중해서
I thought I was, I wanted to at least get out of my group second. But I hit stats a lot on the ladder recently, and I feel like I had good feelings in those games against him.
질 뻔도 했잖아요, 집정관에게.
네.
그때 어떤 생각하셨어요?
사실 그 초반에 캐리어 싸움 이기고
So there were moments when you actually lost a couple of big fights there in the middle of that last game.
빠르게 교환 탔어야 되는.
So what was going through your mind when you lost those two fights?
중간부터 되게 아슬아슬해서 지금.
He said, "Yeah, I think I should recall earlier than when I did." So that was a little bit of a mistake on my
네,
part.
끝나고 웃으시는 게 약간 머쓱한 웃음 같이 느껴지기도 했어요.
So yeah, very much until the end, I wasn't exactly sure if I was going to be able to win that game.
나머지 상대들도 쉽지가 않으니까.
But afterwards, I feel a lot happier having won that game.
해가지고 이렇게 1위로 진출하게 돼서 되게 좋아요 지금.
네, 자 앞서 첫 경기로 치러졌던 테란전 이야기도.
Yeah, so I really didn't want to fall into the final match, so I'm really glad I advanced first out of my group.
네.
네. 패가 나왔던 1세트는 상대가 어떤 스타일인지 파악이 안 돼서 그랬었을까요?
스타일은.
So you only lost one map here, going through a very difficult group.
이렇게 지는 경우가 많았어요. 그냥 연습 때처럼 이렇게 지게
Recently, when I
돼가지고
play PVTs,
그 다크 빌드를 준비하지 않았는데
it's usually in
또
a
무난히
fairly similar style, and it usually goes this way.
적으로 빌드를
So
승리의 요인이었던 것 같습니다.
I tried to, alter my builds just a little bit.
상대가 회생이 불가능할 정도로 피해를 입혀서 이 카드가 준비된 빌드인지 아니면 1세트의 영향인지 궁금했는데 즉흥적인 빌드였네요.
So I was wondering,
아, 그러셨군요. 자, 이렇게 좋은 경기력으로
DTs
16강에 올라가게 됐고 자, 조지명 씨에 대해서 이야기할 게 많아요.
prepared that, or did you, was that spontaneous?
박용 선수의 지명으로 탄생한 SKT T1 선수들의 모임, 그 BSL의 희생양이었거든요.
I'm not sure about that, but so we're talking about group nominations, talking about nominating your former teammates and having to play against them early on last season.
네.
그래가지고 근데 뭐 제가
So any plans about this season, your group nominations?
네.
Said, actually, after I defeated
이렇게 초반부터
Dark, I thought I had made it, but Sue is a very strong opponent.
네. 그런데 또 뽑으면 또 반전이겠네요.
뽑은 사람은 무조건 같이 갑니다. 탈락을 하든 승리를 하든.
네.
So if somebody picks me in the group nominations, I'm gonna go for that.
응원과 함께 코칭도 해주시는 모습, 정말 그 우정에 감동을 받았었거든요. 그런데 그 어이스 선수가 조지명식에서 뽑으시겠다요, 김도우 선수를. 혹시 보셨어요?
I was really impressed by your friendship between
우승하면 이제
you and Sue.
이렇게 제가 도와줬던 거고
네.
뽑겠다고 하면 뭐.
네.
He said, I just helped him to
결승전에서 만나고 싶은데
have a nice dinner treated by Sue. So I guess that was a nice treat, even though he did lose.
사람을 무조건 이긴다는 생각으로 항상 연습을 하기 때문에
네.
뽑으면.
So basically,
I
have this doubt in my mind, but basically my thought is whoever picks me, I'm going to focus on defeating them.
우선 최근에
So before we close, do you have any final words for your fans, Classic?
많이 보여드리지 못했는데 지금 16강
So
올라갔으니
recently, I think my performance has been a little bit disappointing.
돌아오겠습니다.
네, 알겠습니다. 다시 한번 축하드립니다.
But I will pull out my championship
네,
performance.
이렇게 이번 G조의
So please cheer for me. All right, guys, you heard it there.
All right. Classic, very well played here tonight, advancing in first place. Who will come out in second? I think that this is actually still up for grabs.
Yeah.
Keen is the long shot, but he's already shown some good play, so who knows? Keen versus Scarlet, though, will be coming up next in the loser match. Should be a very good one.
Don't go anywhere, guys. We'll be right back with the losers match in tonight's GSL Code S.